Hey everyone, welcome to Classics You Slept Through. We are the book podcast where we read and review classic books. I'm your host, Kyle Davis, along with a girl who likes fish, I think. Yes? Fish? Opinion on fish?
I like fish. I like salmon. I like crab stuffed sole. I don't know. Fish to eat or fish to answer my door.
Oh, well, we'll find out.
Has it been effective?
That's excellent. So we have some fish ahead of us here, a little preview of things to come, as we're talking about chapters 6 through 12 of Lewis Carroll's Through the Looking Glass, his follow-up to Alice in Wonderland. And when we last left Alice, she had just met the White Queen, rearranged her shawl, and then gone through the sheep shop, done some rowing on the water, and caught some crabs. And yeah, then we're transitioning, right? She's then moved across to another square.
She was just about to meet Humpty Dumpty. Because the egg she bought, remember she had to buy 2 eggs.
Oh, yes.
Or no, if she bought 2, she had to eat 2. She only bought 1.
Which is more expensive.
Right. But she could only eat 1. So anyway,
correct.
The egg started to change, and then it changed chapters.
Correct. So now, if we think back to chapter 2, I think, when she first met the Red Queen and sort of got the lay of the land, the Red Queen told her that the 6th square belongs to Humpty Dumpty.
Mm-hmm.
So here we are in chapter 6. This is the 6th square, and we are meeting up with said Humpty Dumpty.
He's a rather unlikable egg.
He's very unlikable. So I did a little bit of research on Mr. Dumpty here, because the Humpty Dumpty poem does not explicitly say that he's an egg. Right? So there's some speculation. So if we all remember the poem, right? Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Right? That's sort of the modern telling how it's come to us. But he's not explicitly described as an egg, and there's some speculation that maybe this poem originally was a riddle. Then you had to figure out, why could this man who fell off of a wall, how did he become so broken? Well, the answer to the riddle would be because he was an egg. That's why you couldn't be put back together.
How did this man become so broken? What a riddle. What a riddle
society.
For our times.
It's modern society. That's what broke him. So, also, in looking this up here, Humpty Dumpty even prior to the poem or the riddle, it was derogatory slang for a short, clumsy person.
Oh.
You would be described as a Humpty Dumpty.
Hence why he fell. And also, Humpty Dumpty, it either was the drink or someone who drank ale boiled with brandy. Is a Humpty Dumpty? Or is
yes.
Is the name of the drink?
I believe so. Or a person that drinks
boiled
that
with brandy
is called a Humpty Dumpty. One of the two. I'm not.
Did you drink it
Let me
warm?
verify. It didn't specify if you drank it warm. I don't know.
Huh. Well, Humpty Dumpty in the chapter says that his name describes his shape and what a beautiful shape it is. But
Yes,
Alice's name doesn't describe anything about her, so it's pointless and useless.
Correct. So she says he's an egg, or she says how very much like an egg he is. And he finds this most provoking. He is upset. Very provoking. And she quickly backtracks. I didn't say you were an egg. I said you looked like an egg.
Pretty egg, you know? Some
Very
eggs
pretty
are pretty.
A very pretty egg. Oh, and I digress. I am so sorry that as we are discussing here, we've jumped straight into the book because listeners don't know, but you have a hard out. But if you're watching us live on Twitch or on our recorded YouTube channel, so please like and subscribe on YouTube, I'm going to bring us up to our photo view here again. So we have Alice meeting Humpty Dumpty. This is also the illustration that I've been using on the edition of the cover of the book. So Alice sort of shaking
Humpty Dumpty's hand here, and he's, very egg-shaped. And one of the things that Alice wonders while she's looking at Mr. Dumpty here, is he wearing a belt or a cravat? So she's not sure if it's going around his neck or his waist, since
his chin is rather close to it.
It is. And this also he finds rather provoking and upsetting. He's like, of course it's a cravat. Like, what are you thinking here, Alice?
Their interaction is, I guess it's just what happens in the square, because I couldn't suss out, like, how does this help move her forward? Or I guess she meets the end of the chapter. She meets the king and the horses, and as she moves through the next square. But Humpty and all of his poetry and his being provoked constantly got on my nerves a little bit.
Yeah. So really it's, I think, a chance for Carol to continue in his wordplay that he enjoys, because basically everything that Alice says to Humpty Dumpty, he twists to a literal meaning, right?
Right.
He also talks about, we get discussion of meanings of words. So Humpty Dumpty will say a word, and he will just make up, this word now means what I say it to mean. He imbues, like, he uses what, impenetrability, I think, and imbues it with like a paragraph full of very specific meaning. And
he's like the opposite of Shakespeare. Shakespeare made up words that then got a meaning, and he takes words and makes up their meaning.
Correct, yeah. Or, as Shock G, R.I.P., tells us in the Humpty Dance, I'll take a word that don't mean nothing, like looped it, right? So
that's where he got that.
There you go, right? It's all tied together. Humpty Dance, Humpty Dumpty, word meanings. See? We can connect the modern to the past with this book.
We did get finally the Unbirthday, where I was expecting to get it with the Mad Hatter.
Ah.
And we didn't.
So yes, as we discussed during Alice in Wonderland, the very famous, in the Disney movie, the A Very Merry Unbirthday to You song, the concept of the unbirthday present, it comes here from Humpty Dumpty. Humpty Dumpty discusses the cravat was an unbirthday present
from the king.
He received. Yes, from the king. He has met the king because the king has promised that should anything happen to him, all his horses and men, he'll be fine.
And why? What is the relationship between Sir Dumpty, perhaps, and the king? Why is the king promised to send everyone to put him together again? What could this little man, Eggman, do for him? Why did he give him a cravat for an unbirthday present?
Well, he controls 1/8 of the kingdom.
Humpty
he has an
does?
entire square to himself.
That's a good point.
I guess technically 1/64th of the kingdom, I guess.
Well, then that's not
Since Alice is just in one, she's just traveling in one rank, really.
It's not impressive, then.
No. Which that brings up a good question. So we only experience 8 squares as Alice travels through a single rank. Like, the Looking Glass world could be much more expansive. There's another, 56 squares out there.
This could be a huge... I know they've done movies and whatever, but this could be really good as a show. Like, really good.
Definitely.
And I think I did enjoy the Alice in Wonderland with the Tim Burton version.
I've yet to see him.
I saw the first one in the theater with Mom, I think. And then I just watched the second one, a little bit of the second one, and wasn't that impressed. Having now read this and had my own, imagination going on, this could be excellent.
Does Burton absolutely follow the book, like, at all, or he just does his own thing like he does?
I'm thinking, well, he does his own thing, because Alice in Wonderland is... I can't speak to that one, actually, but in the second one, it's not through the looking glass. It's Alice returns to Wonderland, and she's supposed to slay the Jabberwocky and bring about Fabrice Day. Is that how I say it? Fabrice Day?
I don't know.
It's from the Jabberwocky poem.
Oh, is it?
Basically, she's...
Frabjous Day. Frabjous Day.
So...
A frabjous day.
My struggle, exactly. Yeah, that day.
Yes.
So and the people of Wonderland want to stop her. Well, the queen wants to stop her because it's her jabber baby walkie, and she doesn't want her to hurt the jabber baby walkie.
But it's called Through the Looking Glass, isn't it? Isn't the movie called
I don't
Through the Looking
remember.
Glass?
I don't remember.
I think it is. Well, speaking of the Jabberwocky, we finally get some explanation of the poem and some of the words, some of the portmanteaus that Carol has invented for the poem, because she explicitly asks Humpty Dumpty, hey, I read this poem, man, I know this poem, but I don't know what it means. And so Humpty gives her a little bit of an explanation of some of the words, which was kind of fun.
So if we put it together, Humpty's saying at 4:00 in the afternoon, slimy and active, two meanings to pick up one word, slimy active toes, slimy active corkscrews or lizards, as he said.
Right.
They make their nests under sundials and live on cheese. And they go round and round and make holes. And what, I don't even know what he's trying to explain to her.
What this poem, it's a nonsense poem, right? Like, basically, that's where we're at, isn't it?
So he doesn't make any more sense out of it. In fact, makes more nonsense.
Exactly.
Alice is super over the poetry reading, though. She really doesn't want to listen to it. She wants to move to the next square.
Exactly. Which, then we get one more poem. Humpty Dumpty tells her, well, hey, I've got a poem. I know poems, too. And she's like, you know what? I'm kind of done with poems, man. I don't want to hear it.
He says, make me.
But this was written for your enjoyment specifically. And Alice goes, well, if it was written for me, I should listen to it. And we get to this fish poem, which Alice keeps interrupting. I guess maybe she felt some ownership over it because it was written for her. And this provokes Humpty Dumpty again. He's like, would you just quit interrupting? Just listen to the poem, kid. But it basically is, it talks about, this guy going to meet the fish, and it ends unresolved. It sort of ends on a cliffhanger, and she says, well, what happens next? And Humpty Dumpty's just like, all right, bye, I'm done. And it's a very odd ending to the interaction. He's just like, done.
It's all goodbye.
Yep. And so, Alice says, all right, well, hope we meet again or whatever. And he says, well, if we do, I wouldn't recognize you because your face looks like everybody else's. Eyes are on top, nose, mouth, everybody's face looks like that.
That's backhanded compliment? No, it's not even a compliment. Front-handed insult.
Exactly. So this is before Picasso was really born even, I think. But, he says, well, if you had two eyes on one side of your face, at least that would be some help. I'd be able to recognize you then. So
it wouldn't look nice. And he's like, wait till you try.
Just
try.
Give it a shot. Come on.
When Looking Glass Land, what do we call it? Looking Glass Town?
Looking Glass World, I guess, yeah.
Looking Glass World. Your face could probably be put on backwards and it would make more sense.
It probably would. That would kind of fit the logic. Well, then we move into Chapter 7, The Lion and the Unicorn. Alice leaves Humpty Dumpty, and we hear a loud crash at the end of Chapter 6. And immediately at the beginning of 7, we see a crush of soldiers and horses, and they are just stumbling over themselves and just falling. Just tons of soldiers.
4,207 soldiers.
Exactly.
4,000.
All but 2, because we need them to play in the game. So I guess technically it wasn't all the king's horses and all the king's men. He did hold back some to actually play in the chess match. So maybe had he sent them all, well, I guess even all of them couldn't put Humpty together again. So it wouldn't have mattered if he sent them all, I suppose. But I guess the implication is that the crash at the end of 6 was Humpty actually falling then, completing the poem. And she comes upon the White King, who says, yes, I've sent everyone, So I guess when Humpty says the cravat was an unbirthday present, it was an unbirthday present from the White King, not the Red King. Well, the Red King's asleep.
Right.
So I guess he can't give out presents. And then we get into a little bit more wordplay, because Alice says, I see nobody on the road. And, the king is, oh, you must have good eyesight to see nobody. I've never seen nobody before.
I would love to see nobody.
Right. Just sort of a family circus moment.
you know. Then, and she sees the Anglo-Saxon messenger because he has Anglo-Saxon attitudes. I'm sure Carol is saying something here that I, in modern times, did not catch at
Didn't
all.
catch it.
No, because he's sort of a silly character. He's running about with his hands spread wide, and he's just sort of skipping and hopping and doing things.
It's very Monty Python-ish.
It
You know,
is.
To see an
It is indeed.
Anglo-Saxon, he's just being Anglo-Saxonish. She has Anglo-Saxon attitudes.
Yes, like it does it absolutely mean anything? We don't even know. But the messenger arrives, and it's an old friend. This is one of the few times we get a repeat character from Alice in Wonderland, not explicitly though. So this is Hare, spelled in the book Haigha, and pronounced as rhyming with mayor. So I kind of rendered it Hare. But this is the March Hare. So he's arrived with his message. And I think his message is just that the Lion and the Unicorn are fighting, right? That's the message?
They're at it again, yeah.
They're at it again. Now we get into he's sort of got a cartoony magic bag. He has whatever he requires. He's got it in there.
This is again from a poem, right?
It's from a game.
Comes...
It's like the alphabet game, right?
Is it?
Like, you play that game in the car, like I'm going on a picnic and I took an apple. So she gets the letter H, right? Because she says, I love my love with an H. And then she goes on to, he comes from, he tries to think of a town with an H and fed me ham sandwiches. And so she's doing like everything with an H. So I think it's a game.
I thought it was just a poem that was how it went.
I think so. I think it's a game. I'm not sure. I did
Your version
not research
makes more
it.
sense, I think.
Yeah, because the king at one point when the king jumps in, it says like he didn't get it kind of thing. He didn't quite get the right. He didn't quite get it.
Opposite.
Right, because he says, what was it?
Well, he takes it literally, and he says,
right, because
this
he
young
says
lady loves you with an H.
This young lady loves you. Oh yeah, because he says, I love my love with an H because he is happy. I hate him with an H because he is hideous. I fed him with ham sandwiches. His name is Hare, and he lives. And she's trying to think of a city, and says he lives on the hill. The king says, with the least idea that he was joining in the game, while Alice was still hesitating for the name of a town beginning with H.
There you go. So that's right then. Then I thought it was another poem, but this game makes more sense, and the king doesn't know how to play.
He doesn't know.
Of course he doesn't.
And then the king mentions, I do have two messengers. One to come, one to go, one to fetch, one to carry. The other one's name is Hare, which is in the book Hatta. So Hare.
Hare and Hare.
Hare and Hare. So we get our friends back. So they go on. They go back to the town. They end up in the town. Now we get into the poem, the actual poem, which is The Lion and the Unicorn.
And this is the first poem I've actually heard before.
Oh, you have?
Outside of this book, yeah.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure. I think it is a lion and a unicorn, though the animals might have been different. In Vincent has a mother goose. Some mother goose? Original rhyme with Mother Hubbard and
right.
I think Humpty Dumpty's in it and Jack and Jill and those kind of poems. And
sure.
This is the first one that I recognize because it's in that book.
Ah, okay. Well, it should be. It's a very old poem, so it is describing the coat of arms of the United Kingdom, which has a lion and a unicorn on it. The lion representing England and the unicorn representing Scotland.
Oh.
So, interestingly enough, the English version of the coat of arms has the lion on the left-hand side and the unicorn on the right, and the lion is wearing a crown. But then in the Scottish version, they reverse places and both animals are wearing a crown.
Interesting.
Yeah, so this dates back to, I guess, when the United Kingdom was formed, when they joined in like the late 15, early 1600s. And just
so did whoever made the UK flag was just like beat a jerk. And Scotland's like, we'll both have crowns.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I suppose.
They're like, nope, just one.
That's it.
What's with the white and brown
so
pie cake?
That I don't know. But the poem, I guess, describes, enmity between England and Scotland as they battle for supremacy in the UK. And then, interestingly, apparently, the artist here. So, the picture I have up right now is they're just arriving to town. I just wanted to put it up so we see our buddy the Mad Hatter again, or not really the Mad Hatter. Disney has called him the Hatter, just the Hatter. He was just called the Hatter. He was described as being mad, but he's never referred to as the Mad Hatter. We have later put that appellation upon him. But I just want to put the picture of him up. But then we get to, so we'll move up to the Lion and the Unicorn. This comes after their fight. They have some plum cake, as it goes in the poem. But apparently, John Tenniel, who is the artist here, he apparently drew the Lion and the Unicorn to represent two politicians of the day, who apparently were very famous for their squabbles in Parliament. The Lion being William Gladstone, and the Unicorn being Benjamin Disraeli. So, Carol, apparently there's no evidence that Carol intended that, but I guess maybe that's just a sly, political, cartoony jab that John Tenniel threw in there.
I was going to say, because the lion does not look like he is in fighting condition.
No, and so that was another. So the lion represents England, and I guess is normally, the Lion of England, and it's this mighty thing. So Carol intentionally made the lion sort of slow and stupid in the book. Like he kind of plods through his lines, and he's not real quick on what's going on around him. So I don't know if that is meant to, ape William Gladstone per se, but there'd be a critique of him. But Tenniel, I guess, thought it was funny when he drew the pictures.
Yeah, it clearly looks like a political cartoon. Like it looks like it's supposed to be somebody.
Yes,
but you can't quite tell. I mean, we can't quite tell who unless you look it up. But it still has that mark of a political cartoon.
Right. So as the poem goes on, they have some plum cake, and Alice is enlisted to do the cutting, but she can't. She doesn't realize it's looking glass cake. You have to hand it round first, then cut it. So she does, and as she brings the cake around, it divides itself. They each get their pieces. And then once that happens, the drumming occurs, and they get drummed out of town. It's a lot of noise. It's deafening noise. And so she gets up, and there's a little brook in front of her. She springs across, and that takes us to chapter 8.
One of the running themes that I noticed strongly in this section is that Alice is strange to them or monstrous to them, and they don't even know what she is.
Yes.
What is this? This is a child, and they call her a monster at some portion. So I guess that's just another piece of Looking Glass land, is that on the other side, obviously, children are not monsters, and they're adorable and they're cute, but inside Looking Glass land, they're terrifying. Although, I must say, sometimes they can be terrifying here as well.
That they definitely can. Well, the only people, if you can call them that she's met really are Tweedledum and Tweedledee, right?
Is the Hatter?
I guess he'd be a person too. Yeah, okay. I suppose he's human as well.
Are the knights people?
They're chessmen. Well, they're chess pieces, right?
It's true.
Not technically human.
It's true. They're not little people inside their outfits. True. They are their outfits.
They are their outfits, right? Or as we see here in chapter 8, the horse head of the knight is really a invented helmet. So interestingly enough, when they get drummed out of town, she hops across a brook, but she does not transfer square. She's still in the 7th square at this point. Because as the Red Queen told us, the 7th square is all forest, but a knight will show you through. So the two knights arrive, the red knight and the white knight, they sort of have a squabble and a fight over who wins and who gets Alice. The White Knight wins out, and she travels through the forest. And this is sort of we don't realize that I guess he's leading her through the forest because they just sort of walk and talk, and they're just chatting as they go through. He
constantly keeps falling off his horse.
He constantly is falling off his horse, which he is laden down with things. He's just got things all over him, and he's a Swiss Army knife kind of guy, right? Like, absolutely anything that he would possibly ever need, he wants hanging on him, because you never know when that very specific situation to need that very specific tool will come along. And
I love that he's got a beehive hanging, but no bees want to come live in it. But should they, he would love to have some honey. So
right. See, he's ready.
They do. And he loves
He's
her,
absolutely
he really wants to take her tray because it had plum cake on it. And he's like, excellent. If we come across some plum cake now, I will have it.
I've got a tray specifically for plum cake. And he shoves it into his bag or whatever. He's also invented a bag that you turn upside down so water doesn't get in it, but everything falls out. And then at least he realizes, well, I guess that's not as useful as I thought it was. So anyway. So yeah, he invents a lot of random things. He's invented this helmet that looks like a bread box or a bread loaf because it'll protect him when he falls. I guess that's useful. He's invented a pudding, which sounds violently disgusting, even though he thinks, those things, it was like sealing wax and oils and all sorts of things. Gunpowder. Yeah. He's like, yeah, it sounds terrible, but if you put it together, it's really good. Like, in my mind, I've decided.
He's invented a new way of getting over a gate, which is to stand on your head and then take your feet over the gate.
Right, because your head's already high enough to go over the gate,
high,
but your feet aren't, so you just have to get the feet up and over it. So perfect. It works. And then, apologies to everyone who had to listen and suffer through, we get the Song of the Aged Man.
You sang?
Which I sang. Did you not listen? You don't listen to our own podcast?
Not yet. I did.
Okay, I did. I attempted. I cannot sing. But I did. Alice recognized it, so he begins singing, and Alice immediately recognizes, wait a minute, you didn't write this. She says, this is, I give thee all, I can no more. So she knows the song. This is a known thing. So I wanted to make it legit, right? Like, I wanted my song to be accurate. So the song is actually My Heart and Lute by Thomas Moore. And this is...
Oh, Thomas Moore.
Yeah. So also called I Give Thee All, I Can No More. And as the song that the White Knight sings to Alice in Through the Looking Glass. So if you'll bear with me, I will play a little bit of this. And this is what I tried to sing here. So let me...
Feels like church, Nana's church.
Okay, so that's a bit of My Heart and Lute, which I attempted to sing.
But that's not the lyrics that he sings.
Certainly not. No, that's the tune, though. That's the tune that he used.
Okay.
So that's why I tried to mimic it. Like I tell thee everything I can. So I tried to, do that in my. It's actually quite a long.
Really long song.
Quite a long song.
I'm sorry all of you had to listen to that. I was sick all week. And up until today, I've had like a froggy throat and cough and couldn't put you through that. And so Kyle offered to read all of it so that we can get back on track. And I'm deeply sorry.
Yeah. And so I got the assignment to sing. So that was great. So once the song is over, we have reached the end of the seventh square, and the knight says, well, here we are. This is it, down the hill and over that brook, and you'll be a queen. And it's kind of a sweet moment because he says, but you'll stay and see me off first, right? And she says, well, of course.
Sweet.
So he sort of starts going back into the forest, and she waves and waits until he's passed. And,
Again,
I forgot to change our pictures. I've not been changing our pictures. So here we have the White Knight falling off his horse with all his things. And then here he is singing about the aged man as he's sitting there on the gate. That's sort of a bizarre photo. But then, finally he gets out of sight. Alice crosses the brook, and now she becomes Queen Alice.
Well, at least she has a crown.
She does. Suddenly a crown appears on her head. She doesn't know how it got there. But there it is.
That's a great picture. Oh, how did this get on my head?
And if you're watching on YouTube or our Twitch stream, you can see the picture. It's very much a chess piece crown, right?
Yeah.
Sort of the pointy things are all around the side, and then you got the big knobby thing in the middle, like a chess piece. Well, then our old friends suddenly, out of nowhere, our old friends appear, and we have the Red Queen and White Queen show up and begin discussing if you can be a queen. Like they're queen gatekeeping here a little bit. Like
they say she has to pass a test or something like that.
She's like, wait a minute, I made it to the 8th square. That's what happens. There's no test. But they get into a little test of riddling and sort of nonsensical things. And, we've very literal things. They go into sort of, Johnny in 4th grade asking questions, right? Like, if you have 5 apples and take away 2 apples, how many apples do you have? Well, I have 2 apples because I took the 2 apples away, right? So
yeah.
It's sort of those levels of things, these riddles that they have, If you take a bone from a dog, what remains? Well, the dog's temper remains because he lost his temper, and so when the dog runs off, the temper is what's remaining. And can you? And then they start asking math questions, and then Alice eventually tries to turn it around. And
can you do some?
Can you do it?
She asks.
And very flusters the White Queen, which, by the way, is our second or mention of math because. When she was with Humpty Dumpty asking about, figuring out how many unbirthdays you have, one of my favorites, 365 minus 1. Humpty Dumpty goes, I want to see that worked out on paper.
Show your work, Alice.
Show your work on that. He's kind of distrustful there. And then even then, he doesn't quite believe her.
You know what I love about this picture that you put up, though, is it answers the question we had earlier on. Do the queens have feet? And they do.
Apparently they do.
In this picture,
I guess
anyway.
they both have sort of hoop skirts. Then why was the Red Queen thumping through the forest? That's like she had a pedestal in the first part of the book.
That's true.
Very
Maybe
strange.
It's just an inconsistency.
I suppose, just
In
however
the
they need them to be.
I like that they have feet.
Yeah,
It seems easier than to thump
it
about.
is nice. Yeah. Well, then the White Queen starts to get a little sleepy, and the Red Queen says, you really should just let her sleep. Why don't you rub her hair and sing some lullabies? And so Alice says, well, I don't know any lullabies. And the Red Queen says, well, I'll do it for you. And she says, the Red Queen sings to her, and Alice says, oh, okay, well, that's great. And the Red Queen says, well, you know what, I'm kind of getting sleepy too. Why don't you give me a lullaby? And she just sort of falls asleep, and the two queens are racked out on Alice, and it just reminds me of like riding on the bus like on a field trip when you're a kid, and the guy next to you falls asleep, and you're like, oh great, his head's on my shoulder now. Like, I guess this is just what I'm doing.
The lullaby too is about Alice, which
it is,
and I think that this is where everything takes a turn, because Alice, I guess, has become the queen, a queen in the 8th square, and now people, I think, know who she is, or they know of Alice.
Yes.
Because when she shows up, they don't seem terribly impressed. But anyway, the lullaby is about Alice, and she's about to head into a place where her name is and all. So she's very present versus who are you? And the identity crisis of the first book seems to be alleviated.
Right. So as the Red Queen told us in the beginning, in the 8th square, we shall all be queens and have feasting. And then in the lullaby here, she says, hush-a-bye, lady, in Alice's lap, till the feast's ready, we've time for a nap. So they're explicitly napping. Mm-hmm. It says, when the feast's over, we'll go to the ball, Red Queen and White Queen and Alice and all. So there's going to be a feast and then a ball. But I don't know if we quite reach the ball. So then, they are snoring, and eventually they just disappear. They vanish.
As
and she's like, you know what?
That's what happens.
Yes. Yeah, it just happens. And Alice the transition is just abrupt. They disappear, and suddenly she's in front of a doorway. And there's a door with 2 bells, a visitor's bell and a servant's bell. And now, from this point, Alice kind of is feeling herself with this crown thing.
She does. She gets bold.
Yeah. So she meets the frog servant and, says, I don't want to ring the servant's bell or the visitor's bell. I'm a queen. I need the queen's bell. I need the queen's door. So anyway, he says, you know what? I'll let you in. And, because she's getting upset with the door, and he's like, the frog's over, and he's like, look, I'm going to go take a nap. You just be nice to the door.
Don't vex the door.
Don't vex
And then he
door.
kicks it.
Yeah. So she gets in, and we have the feast scene. So this is where things kind of go off the rails. Like, this is just insane. So she's up at the head of the table with the queens, and there's lots of people there, and they all recognize her now, as you just said. And they bring out the different foods. The first being a mutton. Or is the pudding first? I think maybe they bring the pudding first.
No, they bring the mutton, the joint.
Mutton first.
The mutton joint.
The joint, yeah. They said they brought a joint out. I was like, oh, I was taking a bag around. I was like, oh, this book is getting. Are we not trippy enough? Now we have to.
Like caterpillars nearby. Who must be?
Exactly. Exactly. So they bring the joint, which is the leg of mutton here, and they introduce Alice to the leg of mutton, and now she's ready to carve it, and they whisk it away and say, no, you can't eat him. You've been introduced to him.
It's rude.
That would be very rude.
And I love Alice's quick thinking, because she's hungry, I guess, and she wants, when they bring out the next thing, she's like, well, don't introduce it. She tries to cut it up real quick, but the queen gets in and introduces her to the pudding.
Right. Yeah, Alice says, I don't want to be introduced to the pudding, or we're not going to get anything. So she's like, can I give you some? Please. But the Red Queen goes, pudding, Alice, pudding. Get it out of here. But Alice is not having it, so she says, hey, I'm a queen. She says, bring that pudding back. I don't care if I've met it. I'm going to eat this pudding. Which, Alice is kind of, it's kind of harsh, don't you think?
It doesn't seem to be painful. I mean,
I suppose
the pudding calls her impertinent, and I wonder how you'd like it if I were to cut a slice out of you creature. So I guess they still don't, maybe the pudding doesn't recognize her. I don't know.
Right. So then...
Make a remark. I love this. Hold on. Yeah. Make a remark. It's ridiculous to leave all the conversation to the pudding.
Yes.
Like, just say something. The pudding has spoken to you. No, I just want to eat it. Do you know how much quantity of poetry I've had repeated to me today? Oh, it's like... Exactly.
And then this is where Alice realizes, every poem that I've heard has been about fish in some way. Do you know why they like fish here? And so the Red Queen... She just says, oh, fish. The White Queen, she knows a poem about fish. Hey, White Queen, give us the fish poem, So,
drop a few bars, girl.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of telling us why this is all about fish, she just goes, okay, great. I'm just going to talk about fish. So she does, and it's apparently a riddle, and she tells Alice to think about it, and until then, we're going to drink to your health. And that's great. And things just kind of go crazy. This reminds me very much of Airplane, where Ted Stryker had a drinking problem, and he would splash himself in the face because he didn't know how to drink. So all these Looking Glass characters, they begin tipping glasses on their heads and pouring it on the table and licking it off the table, which I suppose they could be on spring break maybe, and they're just doing body shots. I don't know.
But no matter every single wrong way you could possibly think to toast and drink is exactly what they're doing.
Right. And so things just begin to get crazy. Alice gets very upset, and she says, you know what, I'm going to deal with this. And she yanks the tablecloth and just trashes the entire party.
It is spring break. Go,
It
Alice.
pretty much is. And now,
Trash.
yeah, and so now she's figures out, she says, you know what, the Red Queen, you have been at the center of all this. You are the one causing all this. This is, I'm going to get you. And the Red Queen has now shrunk down, says, to the size of a doll. And so Alice picks her up and she says, I am going to shake you into a kitten. Sort of a random thing. And so we get into chapter 10, which is about 2 paragraphs long, called Shaking. And she begins to shake the Red Queen. And then we get into chapter 11, which is literally half a sentence. It's not even a complete sentence, it's a sentence fragment. Chapter 11, Waking, where suddenly she is turned into a kitten. She is indeed a kitten. And then we get into our last chapter, chapter 12, Which Dreamed It, where we have a discussion of who was this story really from? Was this Alice's dream? Or was this the Red King's dream? And Alice begins putting the pieces together and saying, well, you, Kitty, you must have been the Red Queen. And you, Kitty, you must have been the White Queen.
Admit it. Tell me.
Yes.
Admit it.
Stop
kidding yourself. Rude. Listen to me. Oh, I love it. She's really, really blaming the cat.
She really is. And then she says, Dinah, were you Humpty Dumpty?
Aw, poor Dinah.
I know. Dinah was very disagreeable. And she says, but don't tell your friends yet. I'm not quite sure. She hasn't puzzled it out who Dinah actually had turned into. But then Alice tries to figure out, well, now, who was it, though? Kitty, logically, it was either me or the Red King that was dreaming this. So who was it?
Oh, in the picture, she's got the little Red King in her hand, I guess.
Right. And she says, Kitty, quit washing yourself. You got to help me figure this out. But the book ends as a question to the reader. Which do you think it was? Was it Alice dreaming or the Red King dreaming? And sort of the wrap up after this question, which we can talk about then, is, I think, directly this is Dodson writing about Alice, the real girl, not Alice, the character in the book, talking about how this, and I think maybe, there's been some accusations of he was in love with this young girl, sort of some untoward things. I don't know. I'm not an academic. I've not studied it. But, he says how she still haunts me phantom-wise, Alice moving under skies, never seen by waking eyes. And then talking about how children love to hear the tales of Wonderland that he's made up, and they gather round to hear more of these stories. And, life, dreaming as the days go by, as summers die. And I guess it's almost sort of a lament of aging and aging out of this age of Wonderland and these wonderful stories that he's created. So perhaps he has more of a childlike interaction with the world that maybe he doesn't relate with adults so well, and he relates with Alice and her sisters better.
I feel like that poem at the end and some of the prose, there was a piece of a section of prose in this where I was like, oh, Lewis Carroll is showing off his actual like his real literary writing ability and not just these silly, quirky play on words, which is fun. And I feel like we got that a lot when we read Oscar Wilde. And after a point, it was like, okay, we get it. You're really witty. So witty. Thank you.
Yes.
This is full of jokes. But I felt like he was really showcasing at one point his literary ability at the end. The poem, I think, is quite nice at the end.
It is.
And it's
sort of
an original.
nicely.
So
yeah.
I also like the idea of shaking someone into a kitten. I might use it as a parental threat from now on.
I'm gonna shake you into a
Shake you
kitten.
into a kitten.
Kittens are easier to take care of, I suppose, although they are quite destructive.
That stuff backfires on me, though. I'll think it's funny, and then Vince will start to cry, like, I don't want to be a kitten. I'm like, really? Come on. Okay.
Yeah, no,
It's not
yeah.
possible. I'm not going to do
I'm
that.
not gonna actually do it.
Mommy, is that real? Can you do that? No.
Right. Oh my gosh. So,
Then,
dear readers and dear listeners, I guess Mare and I will talk for a minute, or we can. Well, I guess maybe we can save it for the wrap. But so yeah, why don't we do that? We'll save it for the wrap, what we actually think. But you out there listening, yes, you in the car with the podcast, with the headphones on our Twitch channel, on our YouTube that you've liked and subscribed to. What do you think? Was Alice? Was this all a dream of Alice, or was she in the Red King's dream? So send us an email, cystpod@gmail.com. Hit us up on social media at cystpod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and or leave a comment on our YouTube. You can you can leave YouTube comments. They're notoriously heinous, but leave us a nice one.
that's where you can find the best literature and poetry. Just peruse the comments section of your favorite YouTube video.
Let's take back the YouTube comments section, folks. Leave nice comments.
Aw.
But yeah, so we'll discuss it next time on what do you think as far as the Red King dreaming, or Alice dreaming. So Mare, I know you got a heart out here pretty soon, but what any final thoughts on the second half of Through the Looking Glass?
I am trying to decide not who was dreaming, but which do I like more, Looking Glass or Wonderland?
Okay.
And I guess Wonderland's more, and maybe we should probably save it for the wrap, but Wonderland is more iconic. I don't know. We should.
Is it though?
I don't know.
That's the question.
We have to watch. I have to rewatch the Disney version, the like classic Disney version that stuck really close. You know, the one that you love, that you've
Exactly.
commented on.
I know. So we'll do that. So we do have two things in the works, folks. So we've mentioned next episode in your feed is going to be the wrap episode. Normally we wrap individual books, but because these two were both so short and sort of a piece, and in our modern, especially I think folks of our generation and maybe a little bit older than us even, the Disney version, although with Disney Plus out now, maybe even younger kids are, the ease of watching Alice in Wonderland is right there.
Yeah.
The two books are so intertwined in popular culture through that Disney version that we decided we're going to wrap the two together. So next episode is going to be our Alice in Wonderland Through the Looking Glass complete wrap. So you have that to look forward to. I think we're going to also try to do a live stream watch party, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll set a time, and so follow us on social media. We will announce it over our social medias when we will do a watch party, so you can watch along with us. You will have to watch your own version, because obviously broadcast rights, but you can watch us hang and hang with us and discuss the book. And because the Alice in Wonderland game by Wyndham Classics, I misspoke, it was not Broderbund. I played a lot of Broderbund games as a kid, but this one was actually by Wyndham Classics. Because that game is so seminal in my mind, we are going to find an evening here this week again, watch our social media, and we will announce the time for you to come hang out on our Twitch channel. And Mare and I are going to hang out and play a little Alice in Wonderland and see if it hews close to the book. Yeah, I think we will.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I
think
remember
that would be
I said
fun.
I would do that. Yeah,
Yeah, you did.
I did.
Yeah. All right, so, I promised I would have you out of here on time. So anything else you want to... Any final thoughts this week, Mare?
No. Was that your stomach? Are you that hungry? I think I just heard your stomach rumble.
That was your phone buzzing.
That wasn't my phone.
That was your phone.
Go eat
Oh
a
my
sandwich.
goodness. You're killing me. I do need to have lunch. So anyway, until next time, folks, this has been Classics You Slept Through,
The guidance counselor just got a new stock of college brochures, so please stop by and see him. This is your future. You should be concerned with it.
Peace.
Thanks, everyone.